The retainer contract later this year, on October 1, 2024, the retainer contract and match fee of West Indies cricketers and regional cricketers will be increased. Watching that match on Saturday night, giving me so much pain and hurt, I struggled to I struggled to justify that increase in payment to these players. I always want persons to make money. As you saw last year when they came out against Nicholas Pooran, I defended Pooran. I know that the richer persons are around me, the richer I will become. I have no issues with persons earning a lot of money, but I am struggling to justify the pay increase of a set of cricketers who continues to disappoint, who continues to hurt the people of the Caribbean and the supporters of West Indies cricket. It is like a bakery. And once upon a time, 30, 40 years ago, you used to bake some wonderful bread. And the entire community would come to your bakery to buy those bread. But after a while, the quality of the bread keep decreasing. And you started losing customer. Fewer and fewer people are watching you, are buying your bread. But you as the bakery owner, instead of changing out the equipment and upgrading the training level of the chefs and the bakers, you decide to throw more money at some incompetent workers and think that it will work. I do not see it working. And I'm really struggling, very much struggling, to justify the pay increase that the West Indies is giving to the players come October 1. Hello everyone and welcome to the show. I am joined this morning by Basil Butcher. But before I go to Basil Butcher, I want to point out that there's no disgrace to losing to Australia. Since losing to South Africa in the second round of the ODI World Cup last year, Australia have chalked up 11 consecutive victories. They have beat every test playing nation, every high quality team in the world of cricket except South Africa, who beat them in that second round. And I bet you, if they are going to be playing South Africa now, they would probably still win that match. So there's no disgrace. The disgrace for me is Johnny Graves in Australia 2 weeks ago begging Australia money. The disgrace for me is the lack of spine and backbone that our cricketers are showing. The disgrace for me is the cricketers who fail to rotate the strike. Is the cricketers who fail to watch the ball carefully. Is the cricketers who cannot feel that we continues to pay them more money. That is the disgrace for me, not losing to South Africa. The disgrace for me is for cricketers who do not know how to bowl the right areas on a pitch. The disgrace for me is for selectors and team managers selecting a team that we cannot understand. The disgrace for me is for the team manager refusing to bat Casey Cartier 3 for what reason I don't know. Those things are the disgrace for me, not losing to Australia. I could go on and on and on. And as you see, I am highly worked up this morning because I'm hurting, I'm disappointed by the performance of the team, that the way they played on Saturday night. As I said, however, I have Basil Butcher with me here this morning to discuss the West Indies performance on Saturday night. Hello, Basil. Welcome to the show. I'm very happy that you're here. What are your thoughts on that performance on Saturday night from a team that looked very helpless? There are some players in this team should never, ever wear that jersey of Cricket West Indies again. They should never be in that team. And after coming from Australia, no way should we ever they should be sent through the revolving door and it be closed behind them. Basil, your thoughts, because as you realize, I'm highly worked up.
Good morning, Carlton. Good morning to your viewers and listeners. Yes, I see you're fired up this Monday morning. A lot of things that you said, are fair points. Uh, and I think, but also we have to put things somewhat in context, right? One, this is not the full strength West Indies ODI team. That's one. Two, West
But
Indies.
Basil,
Hold on,
Basil,
let me just finish this.
Basil, I rumble on along. I
Yeah,
rumble along. I
yes,
rumble along. So I'm giving you your time to talk as long as you want. But it's
yes,
neither is it the full strength Australia team.
yes. I agree with that. Yes, no, but what I'm talking in terms of West Indies, why I say around about full strength. Even with full strength, we're not a good ODI team. That is my point. So when we are not full strength, it's even worse. And what we saw yesterday is, on Saturday or whenever the last game was played, is the normal thing we often see with West Indies teams. We get on a pitch that does a little something and our batters are at sea. What was disappointing to me, and I concur with you, Australia batted first on that pitch and the difficulties they were having to score. I mean, we got a lot of quick wickets. We had them, I mean, what is disappointing? From 167 for 7, they still were able to get to 258 for 9, right? And you now feeling, and you as batters, you see how the pitch is playing. You are supposed to work out in your mind, and who were the most successful Australian batters, how did they bat, and now apply that to when you go and bat. But we didn't do that. Look, for example, Athens, 2 straight 4s, and then the next ball, rather than again look to play the ball along the ground, going to go over the top. There's not a pitch where you could play through the line. You got to get a real rank half volley to look to go over the top. Similarly, Graves, first ball, gorgeous 4 through the covers. Then looking to go over the top with a ball that is not even up. The ball is on the up, on a pitch that is not coming through. So the ball would stop on you. And what he get? The ball stop and hit the top of the high on the bat, straight into the hand of the mid-off fielder, and so on and so forth. So our and also look at Australia's our spinners. Our spinners did an excellent job. In the 20 overs they bowled, they gave away 2 boundaries, right? So the question for me is, why was not Mr. Walsh Jr. selected, and why you picking O'Shane Thomas, who again showed his fielding? I mean, he is worse than a schoolboy in the field. This is international cricket. A guy should not be allowed to walk onto the cricket field with that level of fielding expertise. A guy like that should never be ever picked in an international team just because he cannot field. Because he's not bringing anything else to the table of any great worth at this point, other than probably he's supposed to be able to bowl a ball very fast. But I have not been seeing those the mileage behind those balls as of late. So what is his value to the West Indies team? I stop there, Sir Carlton.
Yes, Basil, thank you very much. And as you talk about fielding, I want to pick up the point on fielding. For the first 28 overs of the match on Saturday night, I felt good because I saw a team fielding with great intensity. I
Mm-hmm.
saw a team fielding with great effectiveness. And I said to myself, this is the first sign of a team that is moving forward. When you want to know that a cricket team is improving, they might cannot bat, or to say they are not competitive batting. They are not competitive bowling. But when you want to know that a team is improving, look at their effectiveness and their intensity in the field. I would have said it many times. You do not bat 50 overs in a match. Very rarely one batsman bat 50 over in a match. Very rarely you bowl more than 10 overs, or you never bowl more than 10 overs in an ODI match. But for that 50 overs, barring injury, you are going to field 50 overs on the match. So, for one to put it a better way, if you cannot bat, if you cannot bowl, you must be able to field and do so effectively and do so well. But after 28 overs, that fielding went to shambles. Even Greaves or Graves, whatsoever you want to call him, even him, ball were going through his feet. And we know that he's a very outstanding fielder. But it seems like when Utley dropped that catch in the 29th over, when he dropped Matthew Short off the bowling of Ruston Chase in the 29th over, a sitter, by the way, that all hell broke loose and the team just dropped. Their shoulder just dropped. And I saw Utley dropping that catch, and I'm not hitting at the young man. But immediately dropped that catch, I knew that he was not going to make any runs in the match. Now, Joseph got a few early wickets, but we cannot be satisfied with the way that Alzarri Joseph bowled Saturday night. No way. Except for Matthew Ford, Ruston Chase, the much maligned Ruston Chase, and again, he proved his worth in the ODI format of the game. His 10 overs were very economical. I think 40 runs, exactly 4 per over. He also contributed 25, and he took a brilliant catch. Albeit, if he never hit the ball in the air, Green could not have caught it. But it was a brilliant catch. And Moti, coming to you, Basil. But there's something I must point it out. You can recall, Basil, from way back when left-arm orthodox spinners always perform good at Sydney. It is the best. They perform very well at Sydney. Why then would you have leave out Hodge out of the playing 11 when you look at that pitch and it was so patchy? If you watch the BBL, that pitch was taking spin from in the BBL. Now, some would say Eddie Walsh should have been in the team. If that's your opinion, that's your opinion. If you would have selected him, fine. I do not have any issue with you. But at this time, I personally do not have much confidence in Eddie Walsh. But Kavim Hodge, who we have seen in regional 4-day cricket and Super 50, have taken a number of wickets and is always high up on the wicket-taking chart. That fielding and bowling performance from the West Indies was really, really embarrassing to me. Go ahead, Basil.
Yes, I had forgotten about Hodge wasn't playing in that match. And I have to concur with you. Hodge would, because Hodge brings 2 skills to the party, because he's a batter, a competent batter, and he's a very useful left arm bowler. So he would have been a way better fit in that 11 than Mr. O'Shane Thomas, right? Everyone knows that Sydney is the one pitch in Australia that spinners thrive, whether it's Test cricket or any kind of cricket at Sydney. That's the one ground in Sydney, in Australia, in a Test match. Teams often play 2 spinners in their 11 because of his helpfulness for the spinner. So I think the West Indies selectors missed the beat in doing what they did. I think although you bring in Utley, who is an opening batsman, all due respect, young Athanaze, you have an opening and you're trying with him, but if you're gonna bring Utley in, the place to where he is most accustomed to be batting, the reason why he was selected, the role he was selected for, was that as an opening, the 3rd opening batsman in this team, right? Then you pick him and you put him to bat at number 3. When Athanaze has been clearly struggling, it would have been better to drop Athanaze down the order, right? So I think the West Indies management missed a few tricks, and accompanied with some very poor batting, at times some listless fielding. Um, all of those things came together to cost us Australia to win a match going away.
Now, Basil, the other thing that I cannot understand, in the first match, Casey Carty batting at number 3 made 88. Why on earth do you choose to move Casey Carty from number 3 to put him at number 5? He once again top scorer. And the ball that he got out of, he should not have gotten out of it. Because instead of trying to slash that ball, he should be playing a back drive with a straight back through the covers and getting a single. So it was a poor shot, he top scored. But why put Casey Carty at 5? You need stability in the team. You need persons to get accustomed to the position they are batting in. And Casey Carty have been batting 3 in this team for the past 4 matches. Why all of a sudden decided to put the young man to bat at 5? What is going through these persons' mind that are in charge of West Indies cricket? I just do not understand. And they think that the solution is to throw money at the players and pay them more. That's not the solution, and it won't work. It takes good insight, it takes planning, it takes execution, and it takes responsibility also from the players. If the players are not going to give you that responsibility, then it is something that is needed to be indoctrinated into them. Because West Indies cricket, we cannot allow West Indies cricket to die. And the present path that it is heading, it may well die if we do not come out and speak out and hold people accountable. I have said it many times. Or you would have heard me say it many times. You would have said it many times. The entire world would have said it many times. Brazil would have said it many times. These players, they do not rotate strike often enough. They don't. What is happening? They are not watching the ball closely enough. Look at Atane's dismissal. Look at Greaves' dismissal. Look at Casey Carty dismissal. They are not watching the ball closely enough. They need to allow the ball to come to them, play it late, and they need to be able to turn their wrists and handle the balls into gaps and run hard. They need to be able to use their crease, go across their crease, give themselves room, leave their crease, go deep in their crease. They need to do all of these things and watches the ball closely and get it into the gap and run hard. And when it pitched up, when those half volleys are ball, they need to hit them high and hard, just like Sean Hubbard did. Basil, this team have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, this issue with us, the rotational strike, has been a stain in West Indies cricket for many years. And the question I have to ask is, what are the coaches doing at the lower levels? Because that's where you learn you start to develop those skills. And why is it 20 years on or so that we are still talking about strike rotation as an issue in West Indies cricket? And that is something that has to, and it's not something to be fixed per se at the highest level. It is something to be fixed at the lower levels. But I would say this, as the great Sir Andy Roberts always laments, there's something he calls personal responsibility. So if you as a player understand that one of the areas of my weakness is strike rotation, it is incumbent upon you to work on those things when you go back home from a series. So when we see you again, we have seen an improvement in those skills. And that is something in West Indies cricketers, unlike cricketers from other parts of the world, we do not see as much. Every time players from other parts of the world, you see them today, and then you may see them several months later or maybe a year later, it's a different, the article has improved. But we don't see that with our players, and that is something that has to be addressed in a fundamental manner. And I agree with you. Regarding the pay, I'm all for the players getting paid more and so on. And I think Cricket West Indies is between a rock and a hard place in terms of the pay, because of the current landscape of world cricket, and players not wanting to commit to play for West Indies or go out there seeking money. So one of their this is one of the incentives to show the players, look, we are trying to help you guys have more remuneration, so you can commit to play for West Indies more than some of them currently are. So I think that's one of the issues there with this pay raise.
Basil, I get that, I got that. And I said, and I come into the persons in the comment section because I know I need your comments, and Basil and I have been rambling a long while now, and we need for you to participate. So I'm coming to your comments. I got the pay raise, I got the T20 franchise, and that is an old program in itself that will take all day, Basil.
Mm-hmm.
What I want to say though about the pay increase, not necessarily the pay increase, but persons going out to make more money. Now, the first thing I ask myself, what does a nurse in England get for pay compared to what a nurse in Jamaica or the Caribbean get for pay? What does a teacher in Australia get for pay compared to a teacher in the Caribbean? What does a doctor in these countries get for pay compared to a doctor in the Caribbean? There's direct proportionality and equity. Those countries are always going to pay their players more than we in the Caribbean can ever pay our players. It will always be like that. Just like the nurses, just like the teachers, just like the doctors, and so forth. They will always be paying them more. Mm-hmm. That is why our nurses leave. That is why our teachers leave, and so forth. That is why the professionals leave. It's because of that same reason.
Mm-hmm.
You're not saying, and I'm not saying that these guys must not go out and earn as much as they want. I would have said it on many occasions that I think both can exist. Alzari Joseph, Mitchell Stark, Azud, and Cummins are testimony to this, that you can play test cricket for your country and still get big IPL contracts. Because I'm telling you, some of these franchise leagues, and Basil will tell you, they don't work it. They don't work it. And really and truly, I believe that both can exist. I believe you can play for West Indies. And that is why this point Jules Sharma is making, Basil, and there it is on the screen. He's saying that these guys will not develop unless they play red ball cricket. How important is red ball cricket, Basil, to the total development of your game, whether you are playing test cricket, whether you are playing ODI cricket or T20 cricket?
Red ball cricket, because of the length of the game, you develop all the fundamental skills necessary to be a competent cricketer. All the fundamentals come into play because you get those experiences coming in the longer version of the game. The ball moves a lot more longer in the red ball game. You will have to face spinners longer in the red ball game. So you learn to develop all those competencies that are fundamental to you being a good player. You learn about being patient. You learn how to accelerate your innings. You know, you could start slow, but you know how to accelerate. A bowler understands how to set up a batter. A bowler understands patience. A bowler understands about putting the ball in consistently in the right areas, and so on and so forth. So when you have developed those fundamentals, now it's a mental thing that switches on as you move to different formats, because that's all it is. You will have to mentally switch on how you're going to approach in this format, because you have all the tools developed in the red ball game that now you could apply them accordingly based on the circumstances in the different formats.
Ajuna is saying, and another one from Ajuna, he's saying that West Indies lack education in patriotism and regarding loyalty and patriotism, right? Is it a case that, and I think I pointed out this earlier, that some indoctrination needs to take place? And he's saying that there are lame excuses about paying bills and taking care of family. Those excuses are lame. How do you react to those comments from him?
I agree with you on the term indoctrination or inculcation. And where does that begin? That begins at the lowest levels, i.e. club, right? It's in the club, playing in the club where you're going to develop that love to want to play for your country and represent your people and so on and so forth. It's something that has to be imbued throughout our cricket structure, not at the highest level, right? So a guy's burning desire is to represent his people. It will reflect in the player's work ethic and all those necessary values that you want in a elite cricketer that would be inculcated at that point. That doesn't happen. So lots of our players don't even know the shoulders upon whom they stand. They don't understand the legacy of West Indies cricket. Those are things they don't understand. Whereas you go around the world, guys from other parts of the world, they know whose shoulders they're standing on, even though they are young people just like them. But this desire to represent their people is something is the pinnacle for them, right? They want to make big money too, but
Yes.
that value is something we have to reinstill in our cricketers from the time they start to learn to play cricket. They must always understand representing the West Indies is the greatest ideal for any cricketer from the region.
Yes, and that is so true. And it has shown that when you represent your country and represent your country well, you get bigger IPL contracts, bigger SA20 contracts, bigger ITL contracts. It shows that is clear. And the Smith said we were well beaten. You and I, Basil, don't have an issue with that. Because I mentioned earlier that Australia is on a 11-game winning streak where they have beaten everybody in the world except South Africa. We know, and maybe the gap between the two teams are very wide. We do not expect the West Indies to beat Australia. We'll be very happy if they do. Very happy if they do. Because it's our team and we hope for them to win.
Yes.
So we know that, Andy. We do not expect them to win. But what we want to see, as I said earlier, is some fight. Is getting the basic of the game right. Is looking good in the field for 50 overs. That's one of the things we want to see. Highly effective, great intensity, putting pressure on the batsman, helping the bowlers to get wickets. Those are the things that we want to see. Win or lose, we want to see you doing the basic properly.
The question I would ask you, Carlton, to add on to that, how many of when we have 50 over tournaments in the Caribbean, and you look at them, do you see the intensity in the field for 50 overs from any team on the field? No, I don't see that. No, right. So the issue is this. Why I raise this is because even in the level below the international level where our guys would from which they get picked, that intensity is not there, and that is something. Again, this is where the coaching comes in. You as a coach of a regional team, etc., that has to be emphasized. That when you watch a team the teams on the field, you see them in the field for 50 overs. Because I could tell you, if you go and watch for 50 over list day cricket in other parts of the world, you will see that.
Yes, Basil. I watch the West Indies team, and as you know, Basil, I am someone who travel all over and watch the West Indies team. I don't only wait on the West Indies team to come to the Caribbean for me to go and watch them. And that is always a striking difference between the West Indies team and the other fields. They just move faster and move more effective and move with greater intensity than the West Indies team. And the Smith is making a point here that some states in Australia even taught cricket in school. Do you see that happening in the West Indies?
Well, let me tell you something. That is something that point has been raised for years, that we need to have part of our children's curriculum a subject about the history of West Indies cricket. So our young people could feel a pride about West Indies cricket going back, from the time we got into Test cricket in 1928, and what happened even before that, the formative stages of cricket being played in the region, and from where we have come to from where we came, and to the heights that we achieved for a small region of 5-6 million people, to at one point to be the most dominant sporting team in the world in any sport. I mean, that is no ordinary feat. And that is something that our young people should know about. I wish some Caribbean filmmaker can actually put together a documentary, because Fire in Babylon, it had its moments, but it did not really drill down, because I remember Yagaro saying to me he did not like the movie because he said to me it did not show upon whose shoulders they stood on. It did not talk about the Sobers, the Gibbs, the Wall, the Griffith, the Butcher, the Kanai, etc., upon whose shoulders they stood on and to achieve, because the team in the 60s was a good team at one time, was the best team in the world, right? And so those kinds of things. And then if you speak to generations from the 60s, they refer to those players as great, because what they did was to put West Indies cricket on the map by consistently beating the best teams in the world. So those kinds of things our young people need to understand upon whose shoulders they stand on. I'll just say this quick story, just in terms of that. About this is 2024. It's about 5-6 years ago. My dad was in his last years. He was ill and so on. And we went to a famous cricket club in Georgetown, DCC Easter Monday, kite flying, and he's sitting in the car because he couldn't really walk around as much those days. And a whole lot of the youngsters from DCC, many who had played for Guyana, either on the 15, on the 17, on the 19, the country, and so on, were there at the club. And the coach of the club said, bye, as the big man, he let me carry my son to meet the big man. And he brought his son. And then a trail of all these youngsters came to meet my old man. And I'll tell you this, Carlton, not one of them had a clue who was Basil Butcher. Not a single one of them knew who was Basil Butcher. And some of them included had played on the 19 for the West Indies. Not one of them knew who that was.
That is very sad. I remember as a little boy in primary school, there's sometime after lunchtime on some days that we used to get these little booklets, and they talk about George Headley and Frank Worrell and Sobers and the Black Bradman and so on. I remember reading those books. Your teacher used to give you on some days after lunch. When you came back in after lunch, and they just give you to read for half an hour and so on. And that, I think that helps me to love West Indies cricket.
Yes.
Marlon Hamilton, that's a good point you're making. I'm really glad that you made a good point today. That's a good point. Because I have always said it, Basil. Hard work beats talent if the talent doesn't work hard. Correct. I've said it on many occasions.
Correct.
Yeah. And Sharma is here saying that is mentioning Johnny Graves always talking about money. If I don't know if you want to go down there, Basil, but how do you rate?
I don't agree with him. I don't agree with him. Fundamentally, the cricket structure, international cricket structure, it is detrimental to all the small nations, right? Just let me put this in context for Mr. Sharma. West Indies gone to Australia. West Indies have sent 4 teams to Australia. The Test team, the ODI, the T20 team, and prior to that, the women's team. The cost incurred to send those teams to Australia is somewhere around 3 million US dollars. Out of this series, the West Indies will not earn a cent because of how the structure is. The home team get all the money. TV rights, everything, all the money. But you incur the cost of getting the players to the country, and then they in the country will take care of what accommodations and travel and so on and so forth. That is a poor model on one hand. Secondly, you can't have a situation where you have all this the TV revenue and the rich get the bigger share and the poor get the smaller share, and you want the poor to compete with the rich. In the United States, for example, all the professional leagues, the TV contract is divided equally among all the franchises. So a franchise in a smaller market, like say a West Indies, we would say it's a small market, is still able to compete because of that revenue with the big boys. They're able to retain their players after their first contract because they can afford it because of the money they earn from the major TV contracts and so on. So these days, if you know about American sport, you don't have to be in a big market to win the title or as a player to do well economically anymore, right? So the structure has to be changed. And I give him another example. West Indies cricket used to be played in the usually be from January, maybe into May was our season, our cricket season. When they changed the thing around, they got we now playing in when it's hurricane season. After June in the summers. No international cricket never used to play in those times in West Indies. So it's often a touch and go thing now too with the weather. And it's only when you earn money, for example, West Indies only earns money from home series when when England or India comes. Nobody else. So if England and India don't come to the Caribbean, we in hot water.
Basil, and just to put what you said in some context, although I don't necessarily agree with everything you said, our opinion differs on that, and it probably will take a whole day.
Yeah.
But just to put what you said in some context, just to give the viewers a chance, when you say that how the money is divided among the test play nation. India, the ICC surplus for 2024 is projected to be 600 million US dollars. That's the ICC surplus. Out of that 600 million US dollars, India will be getting 230 million, and the West Indies will just be getting about $28 million out of that surplus.
Right.
And just to say this quickly, what about the thought process? And there's a thought process also, Basil. I'm just making a comment. There's a thought process also that if the West Indies is winning, the West Indies will get more tour from India, Australia, and England, and they will play more 5-match test series, and the media rights deal for the West Indies will be greater. So what the West Indies really need to do is to increase the product of their game, increase the quality of their game, and start winning, and they will start making more money.
I agree with that. I agree with that 1,000%. That's why, I mean, you've heard me argue before. And one of the things I would argue that the West Indies cricket administrators have not been looking at the root causes for the deterioration of West Indies cricket. They have never addressed it. And that is at the club and school structure. That's the foundation. Yeah. And they've never addressed it.
I agree with you. And as you mentioned, the school structure. And, last week, while Dr. Shallow was in Jamaica, there was a launch of the schoolboy cricket season while Dr. Shallow was in Jamaica.
Right.
The same day Dr. Shallow was in Jamaica, the Jamaica schoolboy cricket season was being launched. And he was not at that ceremony. I am not blaming Dr. Shallow, but
Right.
somewhere along the line there,
Mm-hmm.
whether ISA, whether the JCA, or whether CWI or WEPA, somehow that was something went wrong, because definitely that is something that Dr. Shallow should have been. The
That should have
last
been
2 seasons, he should have been
calendar.
there.
That
Hmm?
should have been on his calendar. You
Do
know,
you think?
yeah,
Do,
because
do you think that Shea Hope is a good captain? Do you think he's leading this team well?
I think Shea Hope is still a work in progress. He is still he's still a work in progress. He's very young in this captaincy arena. So let's give him a little more time to work and see, because captaining, even when he captained Barbados, at time you would scratch your head as to some of the decisions that he would make in the games and so on. So he's a work in progress. He is not close to the finished article at all. So we got to be a little patient with Cheho.
Okay. Mr. Casanova is saying Rodney Agg said hopeless and pathetic. At this point, I agree with this point, Mr. Casanova, where he's saying that we need to expand the pool of players and start looking for the players in other countries, in the diaspora, because we need help and a stiff competition for players to. Yes, I agree that we should look. We probably
Mr.
even should look
Carlton,
first.
I'm glad that point was raised, because I got a call. I'm hearing through the grapevine that several Afghanistan players have acquired citizenship of a specific Caribbean country, right? Because they are dissatisfied with the way the Afghanistan board is treating them. So that may be good news if some of those guys, so those guys in the mix of our regional and hopefully international teams, that would help to lift the standard of our domestic cricket and get some players that of quality. Yeah, because just like how England and so there's poach players from elsewhere, why we can't get in the poaching business too?
I have said that before, Basil, and I've looked at places like South Africa in particular, because we pay better than South Africa. And I've looked at places like South Africa. But hearing that about the Afghanistan players, that would be good news. I hope we just don't offer them any retainer, though. Let them
No,
pay
no, no, no.
and play. And so the champion, yes, the pain was real. Athanaze needs to go. Say
No, no,
Christopher
no, no, no,
Bristol.
no, no,
I-
no.
Christopher Bristol, I have a lot of time for Athanaze. A lot
Yes,
of
yes,
time.
yes.
In his
No, no.
first 7 ODI matches, he has scored 12 centuries. I think 66 and 65, and he also scored 45. So those are decent score in 3 matches. He also got a 30. So in 7 matches, he has scored 12 centuries. No, he doesn't look really good in Australia at this time. But I have a lot of time for Athanaze, and I would give him an extended run, especially in ODI. I want
Yeah.
to see him start doing good in red ball cricket,
Mhm.
but in ODI, I would give him a good run.
Yeah, we got to remember with Athanaze. Athanaze is just like a lot of our younger players. They start out and they might look a little bright or something, but when these teams get a look at them, they get to look at their skill sets and so on and so forth. They figure out how to work them out. Now the issue is this: after a player comes back from a series, you assess the player's performance and areas where player X Y is weak in. You now will go and work on those areas before the next time you play. So the people who would say, "Hey, John Jones is weak outside the off, some blah blah blah," you would have worked on that. So when they come at you with that, you have a counter for it, and that's not what we see with our players.
Thank you very much, Basil. Chevron is asking if I'm going to the Glenmore match. Chevron, I would love to, but let me say this, and I'm saying this to all of you who are watching. I would love to have come and stream that match, Chevron, but I do not have any sponsorship. So if there's any company, anyone in here that have a company or a business, and you would like to sponsor the streaming of schoolboy cricket in Jamaica and the Senior Cup cricket in Jamaica, please contact me. I'll welcome and let us work out a package. So if you have a company or a business and would like to sponsor the live streaming of grassroots cricket in Jamaica, that's the Senior Cup and schoolboy cricket, check it out. Please contact me and let's work. Brian H is saying here, what do you think Alzari basically taken a shot at the Butters, saying they should have chased down the score? It was always going to get hard to get 258 and that. Is Alzari diverging blame here because of his
deflecting? Yeah, I think he's deflecting. He's deflecting, and that is not good from a leadership. I would hope, however, that if he said that publicly, that he said that in the dressing room, right? Because that would be a problem if he did not say that in the dressing room and just air that out in the public. But he has to take some of the blame. He bowled a lot of garbage. He was going at over 9 runs over. He's supposed to be the leading bowler in our team and bowling. Yes, he got 2 wickets. He lucky got the 2 wickets because those guys were taking him to the cleaners, and he's the leading bowler in the team. Come on, you can't be going at 9 over 9 and over. Come on.
Yes, and he definitely sell the players on and under the bus there. So I agree with you. I hope that he definitely said it in the changing room first. So he's saying it's all mental. We're coming up on the hour mark, Basil, and then we have some things to say. That Bobby Brown, we're hearing from Bobby Brown here. The Thomas and Walsh is a liability to us. So Bobby is expressing his opinion there. Choose set you free, saying, I am saying it again. Hope must open the innings and give us some impetus. But truth set you free. The issue there is that Hope have said that he's not going to open anymore. He's going to bat at number 4. So that's
we gotta stop that discussion. Throw it out.
Yes, because he said that he's not opening again.
He's not opening.
And Fear saying that went to sleep with the score on 89 for 5, saying we surely won that game. Woke up seeing they made 75 runs more than I expected, and we made less than 200. Ruined my Sunday. Basil, that comment from Fear Scare is repeated many times.
That probably resonated throughout the Caribbean and around the world.
Around the world. And Fidel da Silva is saying that O'Shane Thomas needs to be off the team. Mr. Casanova, Shubman Gill was the same under 19s. Yes, that is true. And that is so true. And Atanes outscored him.
Yes,
and just like how India,
scorer. Was leading scorer.
And just like how India is giving Shubman Gill that extended run, that's the same reason why I'm going to give. And Gerard Mead is saying that once again, our batters in, with the exception of Carty and Chase and Joseph, all are playing too much on the back foot. Do you think, what's your response to that, Basil?
I can't say all of them play. Yeah, maybe they may have played a ball on the back foot that they should have come forward to. Yeah, that happens, right? And the thing about it, that pitch was not a pitch you want to be lunging onto the front foot because the ball would stop at times and so on. So you have to look to play the ball as late as possible. Play the ball under your eyes, right? So sometimes that could be on the back foot, sometimes it could be on the front foot. So we're judging at that game, right? And at times the ball bounced too. So you getting they got all the varieties on that pitch. The pitch had a little turn, it would bounce a little bit, it's stopping. Now it takes great skill to negotiate that, and it showed that our batters did not have that from a mental perspective, because I think they got the tools as the strokes, but it's how to apply them in the given situation was the problem for me.
Nehemiah said, and this is a very interesting comment, because I hope that Nehemiah could explain it to me, because I don't see how discrepancy in money contributes to weakness of our game. I do not necessarily see that.
No.
We'll definitely would like to have more money. So
Yes.
I'm not hitting your point, Nehemiah. You're entitled to your opinion. I respect your opinion. My views on that differ. And I'm gonna say this. Again, I just said it a while ago. Our doctors in the Caribbean get less pay than doctors in developed countries. Our nurses get paid.
Mm-hmm.
Would you want to be in an hospital and know that because these doctors are getting less pay, their weakness in their ability to diagnose the
Right.
issues that you have
Right.
and
Right.
care for
Right.
you?
Right. Right.
You wouldn't want that.
They're
So
still
I
professional.
really don't. Go ahead, Basil, please.
I said they're still professionals, right? They're playing at the highest level of the sport, right? Nah, the problem is the structure and the players, the work that the players are not doing on their games, coming through the structure, and even when they get to the top, I don't think they're working on the games adequately enough to be the best they can be. You know, we don't hear,
Okay.
do you ever hear West Indian players saying they want to be the best in the world?
No, they always say stats doesn't matter.
Uh,
And, and I think they're lying, Basil, but they always say it. But because they're not prepared to work hard to reach the top, they
yeah,
use it as a they
I
use
have
it as a
heard,
bailout.
for example, the same hard work thing. I have heard that Sinclair
Yeah, we mentioned
and
it.
Joseph and Shamar Joseph have been chastised, if you will, and that might be too harsh a term, but along those lines, by other of their colleagues about how much work they're putting in.
That they are being laughed at. I heard it.
Exactly. Yeah,
But
I've heard that.
it happened to Lara. The
Mm-hmm.
same thing that persons their players, let me not call in any name, during the Lara era, is the same thing that they did to Lara.
Yeah.
Now, I am going with this 11 for tonight's game. What do you think? That I will
Tonight,
sit
Carty, Hope, Hodge, Graves, Chase,
and
Shepherd.
leave out. Yes.
Who are you leaving out?
No, man, this is the same 11. Leave out Thomas and bringing in Hodge.
Hodge. Yeah, I could go with that.
You could go.
Yeah, I go with that. Yeah,
Okay.
because you know why? I know why. Just listening to the Australians talk about Canberra, as they said, that's
It's
not
fast.
yeah, where a leg spinner would want to come and be bowling, but a left arm guy, left farmers could work because they tend to be more accurate. They ain't a bowl a bunch of long hops and so on like a leg spinner. So the place where Walsh should have had to may have gotten another chance would have been at Sydney, but not
And
at.
if we really need another seamer, Greaves or Graves can
Yeah.
can do that.
The question you gotta ask: why did he get any bowling?
Yeah. Well,
you know.
yeah, but Basil,
I guess Shea Hope didn't watch him play the test matches. He missed the test matches.
yeah, but Basil, now the regional 4-day cricket tournament starts this Wednesday coming up.
Right.
It is going to be very interesting because
Yes.
we need to watch this tournament to see the players. Because a number of times persons just call a name without looking at the player. They just maybe because they like the player,
Yeah.
maybe because the player is from their country, or somehow they just call a name. But we need to watch the tournament. Basil, this is Guyana's squad that has been selected for the
Right.
regional. These are the 13. They had to make 2 changes because of injuries.
Yes.
That's the squad here. If you were the selector, Basil, would this have been your squad?
No, the fast bowler Cadogan. There's a guy from Borby's name
Tyndall?
Tyndall, yes.
Yes.
I would have gone with Tyndall because he got extra pace more than Cadogan. Cadogan is more a little bit above medium pace, So I would go with Tyndall because there's no substitute for pace, man. Yeah.
So you'll go with 12 of the 13 there. The other person you take out is Neil and Kandoan.
Cadogan, yes. Cadogan,
Oh,
yes.
okay, thank you.
Yes.
Do you agree with the decision to make Kevlin Anderson captain of the squad?
I understand it. The guy who would have been the most suitable person, in my view, to be the captain is Anthony Adams, because he has a lot of experience, a lot of captaincy. He captains Essequibo. I think he also captains his club team. So he has a lot of experience as a captain. The issue with Anthony Adams, they might want to say he is not an automatic pick in the 11. So you don't want to burden that situation with giving a guy the captaincy who is not in an automatic pick in the 11. So, but he would have been my first choice to be captain, Anthony Adams.
Speaking about Anthony Adams, last year he was left out of the squad, and there was a big controversy in Guyana with him being left out of the squad. So you are probably right that he's not a sure pick in this 11. So you probably don't want to go with him. Look at this squad, Basil. Who are the players in the squad you believe will be pushing for selection to the West Indies team? We know Kevlin Anderson is probably on the verge, but what are you looking? Who are you looking at?
Amongst them, if anybody, it's hard to say. This guy, Savary, because he's a wicket keeper. And, I'm still not satisfied with Mr. De Silva as our first choice wicketkeeper. That I would like to see another wicketkeeper batsman start putting up their hands to put their name in the mix. So I will be looking at Savary in terms of that. Young Raymond Perez, he is a guy, he's a very talented batter. He was part of our under-19 team to New Zealand, but he had to leave. I think he got an injury and he had to leave as a result. But he is another youngster I'll be looking at to see where him to put up his hand to be in the mix to score heavily. Well, obviously the Mr. Sinclair, to push for a play, continue to stake a claim for his play.
So Basil, if Savary or any Nandu or Kevlin Anderson, how many runs do you think they need to score to be not picked because of like, but kicked down the door? How many runs do you think they need to score?
Well, we playing 7 games, right?
Right.
You got to score over 500 runs.
Have to score over 500 runs to be considered.
And you must be averaging 55 or more
to be considered. Okay.
Yes.
Do you see anyone like Thorne, any one of those guys coming back from the World Cup be drafted in this Guyana team?
Yes. I get good news. Thorne will be there for the second match.
Okay. So he will be the only one coming back?
He's the only one from the Guyana perspective, because it's two Guyanese in the under-19 in Dinal and the batsman Dindial.
Yeah. Okay. Guyana is the defending champion, as you know, Basil. Do you expect them to challenge again this year? Do you expect them to repeat?
I am a little bit wary because I look through this team here and it's not a strong batting lineup. There's a lot of inexperience here, so I can't be that optimistic. What's interesting when you look at this team, they've chosen 5 batters, five frontline batters, and then you add Sinclair as an all-rounder. So one thing for them, they know they will be playing in at least the first 2 matches. So these guys have a chance to put up their hand. Where it comes around is they got a bunch of spinners in new guys in Luke Knock and Sankar. to go along with, Adams played a few games in the past, along with the veteran Verisami Permal, and obviously Sinclair would be bowling his off spin, right? And then you
Basil,
got
on the screen there, on your screen there is the playing 11 that you have selected for the first match.
yes.
Why are you going with this playing 11?
Well, Sankar and Lukna are new guys, so I will tend to go with a guy that a little more experienced in terms of the spinners. Ronaldo Ali Mohammed, he's a bowling all around the hard hitting batter. He also played, by the way, he also played on the 19 West Indies cricket too. He was in New Zealand with the same team with Athenaeus and company. And now he is finally making his debut for Guyana. Obviously, because of guys away on international duty, he's got a chance to prove his worth. But I would look to get a balanced attack, because he bowls seam. Him, Cadogan, and Beaton would be the seamers. And then you have the three spinners in Permal, Adams, and Sinclair, the all-rounder. So you got to give the captain as many options to bowl there. So you got the two left arm spinners and Sinclair. I would have liked. It would be somewhat up in the air between Anthony Adams and Sankar. Sankar being a leg spinner, because we don't have many of those in our first class cricket. So I wouldn't be so bent out of shape if they play Sankar instead of Anthony Adams, since he gives them a different look in terms of being a leg break googly bowler.
So you do not expect Guyana to repeat, because you're saying that the batting is not as strong as it was last year.
No, it's not. But I can be pleasantly surprised if Mr. Perez lives up to his pedigree. I got some friends who speak about Perez in such high regards, so I'll be looking closely at Mr. Perez. And you know what? He was one of the youngsters that said he never heard of Basil Butcher. He was there on that day.
Okay, we are just on the hour mark. I just want to say, great. Speaking the truth, and it should be said, but what we're saying about here is man management, managing ego, and keep the thing in balance. So we are saying, before you come out to the public and say it, you would have need to say it to the players first in the dressing room.
Exactly.
That's all we are saying, because we said it here too. We cussed about too.
Exactly.
So we agree that Joseph is speaking the truth. But in a team environment, as a leadership, you need to have some management of the situation. So say it in the dressing room first before you come out and say it in the public. That's all we're saying here.
Mm-hmm.
We are just up on the hour mark. We have gone over the hour. I really thank you for being here. As I said earlier, if you are interested to sponsor the streaming of the schoolboy cricket season in Jamaica and the Senior Cup cricket in Jamaica, please contact me and let us work out a deal. I really think that it will be very beneficial for your company. Basil, thank you for being here today.
Thank you again, Sir Carlton. And yes, please, somebody here in Jamaica, y'all, please step up, because the more we can get these players exposure, that a Jamaican, any part of the world, or anybody cricket enthusiast could turn on and to see their favorite club of the past playing on a Saturday or a Sunday, it would be good. And it also would help the young players, knowing that they will be exposed to the world.
Yeah, that is so true. They will be exposed to the world, and you can have a first look at the grassroots cricketers in Jamaica. So thank you. I hope that somebody will step forward and sponsor the live streaming. As you heard, man just now asking me if I'll be streaming the match. So there's great interest here. Mm-hmm. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a wonderful day. Please take care of yourself. Take care of your loved ones. See you tomorrow morning. Watch the match tonight. Goodbye. Have a great day.